A scream tears through the frozen night air of Blackwood Manor, and a single black raven feather drifts down the grand staircase stained with fresh blood. Welcome to the chilling tale of the Raven Club conspiracy, murder beneath the manor. Grab a hot cup of tea or coffee, take a comfy seat, and settle in, because tonight we are stepping into a world of secrets. Lies and perfect murders solved only by the greatest detective of all time, Hercule Poirot. If you're loving these twisted mysteries, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support truly means the world to us and keeps these dark stories coming. While the tea steeps, drop a quick comment and tell me from which city or country you're watching this right now. I read every single one. Chapter 1. The Gathering Storms Know. Falls thick and silent over the rolling hills of Devon in the winter of 1936, cutting Blackwood Manor off from the rest of England. Like an island lost in time, the great house stands dark against the white landscape. Its towers sharp as knives, its windows glowing with uneasy golden light tonight. 12 strangers have been summoned here by a letter sealed in black wax and marked with the symbol of a raven in flight. Hercule Little, Belgian detective with the magnificent mustache and the even more magnificent mind, steps down from the chauffeured Bentley, brushing snow from his perfectly tailored overcoat and fur collar. He does not like the English weather. He does not like being dragged from London in December, and he especially does not like anonymous invitations that arrive on thick cream paper, smelling faintly of expensive perfume and hidden threat. Yet curiosity is stronger than comfort, and the letter promised something Poirot can never resist: a crime that has not yet happened but soon will. Inside the entrance hall of fire roars, but the warmth does little to chase away the chill that has nothing to do with snow. 11 guests already wait, wrapped in furs and suspicion. There is Lady Eleanor Ravenscroft, the hostess, tall and pale, with eyes like winter steel, her much younger husband, Sir Reginald, who drinks too much and watches everyone as if expecting attack. There is Victor Kane, the handsome explorer just returned from Egypt, with a scar across his cheek and secrets in his smile. Beside him stands Clara, his nervous sister, clutching a small leather notebook as if it holds her life. Dr. Felix Hawthorne leans against the marble fireplace, polishing his spectacles and speaking to no one. Miss Penelope Gray, the famous medium, sways gently, humming under her breath, while her companion, the silent Mr. Graves, stands behind her like a shadow carved from night. Captain James Harlow, retired military man with a limp and a temper, watches the door with the eyes of a man who was killed before and might again. Young Anthony Blake, the charming playwright, laughs too loudly and drinks champagne as if tomorrow will never come. Mrs. Beatrice Langley, the wealthy widow, wears black pearls and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Professor Lionel Thorne strokes his white beard and mutters about ancient curses. And finally, there is Raven Club butler Marsden, tall and thin, with eyes that see everything and reveal nothing. Ruru greets them all with perfect politeness, but his little gray cells are already dancing. He notices how Lady Eleanor flinches when the raven symbol is mentioned, how Sir Reginald avoids looking at Victor Kane, how Clara's fingers tremble when Dr. Hawthorne passes to close, how Miss Gray stares at an empty corner of the room and whispers, "There are 13 people here, not 12." Dinner is announced, and the guests move toward the long dining room where crystal and silver gleam under candlelight. The table is set for 13, though only 12 will sit. 10 empty chair waits at the far end with a black raven feather laid across the Palladius. They take their places. The wind howls outside and the snow piles higher against the windows. Marston serves the first course in total silence. Poirot sips his soup and watches every face. Ceased fear, desire, guilt, and something darker, something that has been waiting years for this night. Lady Eleanor rises to speak, her voice clear and cold. She thanks them all for coming to this gathering of the Raven Club, a secret society bound by blood and oath. 20 years ago, she says, a terrible wrong was done beneath this very house tonight. That wrong will be put right tonight. One of us will pay the final price. A log cracks in the fireplace like a gunshot. Glasses tremble in nervous hands. Poirot alone remains perfectly still, his green eyes bright as a cat in the dark hand. Then the lights go out total. Darkness swallows the roomy woman's scream. Something heavy falls. A single match flares, revealing for one terrible second the empty chair now occupied by a figure in black robe's face hidden beneath a raven mask. The match dies when the lights return. 30 seconds later, the figure is gone, but Sir Reginald Ravenscroft sits dead in his chair, a thin black dagger buried to the hilt in his heart upon the white tablecloth. Beneath his lifeless hand, someone has drawn in blood the perfect outline of a raven in flight. Snow continues to fall. Every door and window is locked and bolted from the inside. No footprints lead away from the house. The telephone line is cut. 12 people remain alive in Blackwood Manor. One of them is a murderer on Hercule Poirot. Smiles a small, neat smile, because the game, as he loves to say, has begun. Chapter 2. The Locked House. And the first lies. Snow beats against the tall windows like a living thing trying to get in. The dining room smells of fear and spilled wine. Sir Reginald's body has not been moved. He sits upright in his carved chair, head fallen forward, the black dagger still rising from his chest like an accusation. Circle of shocked faces stares at the corpse and at the blood-drawn raven that stares back. Poirot stands beside the body, his small hands clasped behind his back. He does not touch anything yet. He simply looks. His eyes move from the wound to the feather on the empty plate to the overturned wine glass that has left a red stain. Shaped almost like wings, Lady Eleanor is the first to find her voice. She orders Marston to telephone the police. Marston returns 2 minutes later, pale as candle wax. The line is dead, cut clean outside the house. The storm has brought down trees across the only road for 20 miles. Blackwood Manor is sealed tighter than a tomb. Captain Harlow limps forward and tries every door and ground floor window himself, fall bolted from inside, all locked. No key is missing, no pane broken. Whoever killed Sir Reginald is still among them. Poirot raises one delicate hand and the room falls silent. He speaks softly, but every word lands like a hammer. We have a murder most interesting committed in darkness in less than 30 seconds in a room full of witnesses. No one entered, no one left yet. A man is dead and a stranger in raven robes appeared and vanished like smoke. This is not a crime of passion. Mies Amos, this is theater. He asks that no one leave the dining room until he has examined the body. Dr. Hawthorne steps forward at once. He is the only medical man present. He kneels, pulls back Sir Reginald's dinner jacket, and studies the dagger, single thrust upward under the ribs, straight to the heart. Death instantaneous. Blade is unusual, narrow, triangular, blackened steel. The handle is carved ebony in the shape of a raven head with tiny ruby eyes. Hawthorne looks up. I have never seen a weapon like this outside a museum. It is old, perhaps hundreds of years old. Poirot nods. Then we are dealing with someone who likes symbols. Symbols are dangerous. They make people careless. He turns to the guests. Now we begin the little conversation. Two among you knew Sir Reginald would sit in that exact chair tonight. Lady Eleanor answers quickly. The place cards were laid this afternoon by my own hand. Reginald always sat at the foot of the table. Everyone knew that. Poirot smiles politely. And the empty 13th place with the black feather, whose idea was that silence, even the fire seems to hold its breath, was mine, says Miss Penelope Gray. The medium, her voice is dreamy, distant. The spirits told me a 13th guest would come, one who has waited 20 years to join the Raven Club. Victor Kane laughs too loudly. Spirits, how convenient. Perhaps the spirits also cut the telephone line and locked us in with a killer. Clara, his sister, flinches as if he has struck her. Victor, please. Poirot watches the small drama with bright, interested eyes. He asks each guest in turn what they saw when the lights went out. Lady Eleanor saw nothing. Total darkness. Captain Harlow heard the rustle of cloth close beside Anthony Blake, the playwright, claims he smelled incense myrrh and something metallic-wise. Langley says she felt cold air, as though a window had opened, though none did. Professor Thorne mutters about curses and ancient Egyptian death rites. Dr. Hawthorne heard a soft, throaty sound, almost like a raven's call. Miss Gray says she saw a tall figure in black already standing behind Sir Reginald before the lights died. Poirot listens to every word, filing lies and truths away in perfect order. He notices that only one person says nothing at all. Mr. Graves, the silent companion of Miss Gray, stands against the wall, arms folded, eyes fixed on the floor. Poirot makes a small mental note. Graves sees too much and says to little Marsden, the butler. Is questioned last. He swears he was in the pantry when the lights failed. He heard the scream, ran back, and helped relight the candles. Poirot asks gently, and the main fuse box it is. Where exactly in the cellar? Replies Marsden, behind a locked iron door. Ronley, Lady Eleanor and Sir Reginald had keys. Sir Reginald wore his on a chain around his neck. Poirot glances at the dead man. The chain is still there, but the key is gone. A soft gasp runs around the table. Someone took the key from a dying man in 30 seconds of darkness. Poirot claps his hands. One spin. Now we move the body to the library, where it will stay until the police arrive. No, one is to be alone tonight. We will all sleep in the great hall by the fire, like soldiers in a camp. Tomorrow, the little gray cells will work better with daylight. As the men lift Sir Reginald's body, Poirot lingers behind. He kneels beside the blood-drawn raven on the tablecloth with one gloved finger. He touches the edge of the design, still wet, drawn after the murder knot. Before he looks up at the chandelier directly above the table, 12 candles still burn. None were used to draw the symbol, so the murderer carried his own light, perhaps a tiny torch hidden in the raven mask. Poirot rises and dusts his knees. He whispers to himself, this is not one murder, mon ami. This is the first move in a game that began 20 years ago. Hercule Poirot does not lose at games. Outside, the wind screams louder. Somewhere in the house, a door slams, though no one has moved, and high in the darkness of the minstrel gallery, a single black feather drifts slowly down, landing without a sound on the exact spot where Sir Reginald died. Chapter 3. Whispers in the Dark. The great hall of Blackwood Manor glows with firelight and suspicion. 12 people sit on makeshift beds of cushions and blankets, arranged in a rough circle around a massive hearth. No one sleeps. The storm outside has become a living beast, clawing at the walls. Poirot sits upright in an armchair, wrapped in a thick traveling rug, his eyes never closing. Watches the others the way a cat watches birds. He sees Captain Harlow cleaning an old service revolver that suddenly appeared from his luggage. He sees Victor Kane pouring brandy with a hand that shakes only when he thinks no one notices. Sees Clara writing furiously in her small leather notebook, then hiding it beneath her pillow when anyone looks her. 2 in the morning, the fire settles into dull red embers. Lady Eleanor stands and walks to the tall windows. Snow has covered them completely, turning the glass into blind white eyes. She speaks without turning around. 20 years ago, my brother Edmund died in this house. He was only 20. Wealthy said it was an accident, a fall down the cellar stairs, but Edmund was never clumsy. Someone pushed him. The Raven Club was born. That night, 12 of us swore an oath by candle and blood to find the killer. We never did until tonight. The 13th member has returned to finish what was started. Day log shifts in the fire, sending up a shower of sparks. Dr. Hawthorne removes his spectacles and polishes them slowly. He says quietly, Edmund Ravenscroft was not pushed. He was drunk, and he fell. I was there. I examined the body myself. There were no marks of violence. Lady Eleanor spins around, her face white as bone. You liar, you were his friend. You covered it up. Hawthorne shrugs. Mez told the truth then, and I tell it now, but someone in this room wanted Edmund dead, and someone still does. Silence falls heavier than the snow outside. Poirot rises smoothly from his chair. He walks to the center of the circle. His look, shadow dances huge across the ancient tapestries. He speaks softly, but every word carries. Madame, you gather 12 people 20 years after a death. You saw me Q. Speak of oaths and blood, and a 13th guest you place a black feather at an empty place. You create theater, perfect theater, but theater requires an audience and a victim. Tell me why you really brought us here. Lady Eleanor meets his gaze. Her voice is steady now because the letters began again. 6 months ago, black wax raven seal each letter, named one sin from that night, 20 years ago each letter. Promised that on the 20th anniversary, the guilty would pie, thought if I gathered everyone who is here, then the killer would show himself. Dean, not expect murder, I expected confession. Poirot nods slowly, and the dagger with the raven handle it belongs to this house. It was Edmund's, she whispers. He brought it back from Cairo. He used to say it was cursed. He kept it locked in the cellar with the other relics. Poirot turns to Marsden, who stands near the door like a dark statue. The cellar key taken from Sir Reginald. You have the only other key. Yes. Marsden inclines his head. Lady Eleanor gave me hers years ago, but I have not left this hall tonight. You may search me if you wish. Poirot smiles. I will, but later. First, we have a small experiment. He asks everyone to stand and form a line. He walks slowly along the row, stopping in front of each person. He sniffs delicately at sleeves and cuffs. When he reaches Miss Penelope Gray, he pauses. Myrrh. He says, something sweeter. You are wearing this perfume. At dinner, the medium smiles vaguely. Spirits like insensate helps him cross over. Poirot moves on. He stops again at Victor Cagneur. Right hand. You favor it? Yes. From war or from climbing pyramids? Kane flexes his fingers. Old climbing injury. Nothing more. Poirot says nothing, but his eyes flick to Kane's shoes. Wet snow still clings to the soles, though he has been inside for hours. At the end of the line stands Mr. Graves. Poirot looks up at the tall, silent man. And you, mon amour, have not spoken one word since we arrived. That is unusual. 11. The dead speak eventually. Graves meets Poirot's stare. His eyes are flat and cold. He says nothing. Poirot steps back. Interesting, very interesting. Now, everyone return to your places. We have perhaps 3 hours before dawn. I suggest you rest, because tomorrow we go down to the cellar, and there we will meet the pastas. The others settle again. Poirot returns to his chair. He takes a small notebook from his pocket and writes quickly in neat, tiny handwriting. He underlines one name 3 times. Grave. Above, in the blackness of the rafters, something moves. A soft rustle like wings. Another black feather drifts down, landing silently on Clara Kane's pillow. She sees either hand, flies to her mouth to hold back a scream. She looks around wildly. Everyone appears asleep, but Poirot watches through half-closed eyes, and he sees her slip the feather into her notebook hand. He sees the tears on her face that have nothing to do with fear. Outside, the storm begins to ease. The first pale hint of morning creeps across the snow, and somewhere deep beneath the house, something ancient stirs and waits. Chapter 4. The cellar door. Dawn comes, gray and reluctant. Snow has stopped, but the world outside is buried deep. Blackwood Manor stands silent as a grave. Poirot is already dressed immaculate as always, in 3-piece suit and shining shoes. Despite the night spent on a sofa, he drinks coffee from a tiny cup and waits for the others to gather. In the entrance hall, Lady Eleanor appears wrapped in black velvet. Her face drawn with exhaustion. She hands Poirot a heavy iron key taken from her jewelry box. My husband's key, she says. The one stolen last night was the duplicate. This one opens the iron door to the lower cellar. I have not been down there since Edmund died. Guests assemble slowly, yawning, rubbing eyes red from sleeplessness. Captain Harlow carries his revolver openly now. Victor Kane looks pale and keeps glancing at the windows as though expecting someone to appear through the snow. Clara clutches her notebook against her chest like a shield. Mr. Graves stands apart as usual, silent and watchful. Poirot leads the way. They pass through a narrow stone passage behind the kitchens. The air grows colder with every step. At the end stands a low iron door, green with age, and secured by a massive padlock. Poirot inserts the key. The lock turns. With a scream of rusty metal that echoes like a dying bird, the door swings inward. A blast of freezing air rushes out, carrying the smell of damp earth, old blood, and something sweeter. Decay. Stone steps spiral down into absolute darkness. Marsden lights 3 lanterns and hands one to Poirot, one to Harlow, one to Victor Kende. Descend single file. Halfway down the temperature drops sharply. Their breath comes in white clouds. The walls weep moisture. The bottom of the passage opens into a large, vaulted chamber. In the center stands a circle of 13 tall black candles, burned down to stubs 20 years ago and never replaced. In the floor inside the circle, someone has drawn an enormous raven in white chalk, its wings spread from wall to wall. In the middle of the chalk raven lies the missing cellar key from Sir Reginald's neck. Beside it, fresh drops of blood, still wet. Poirot kneels carefully. He touches the blood with one finger, then brings it to his nose. Still warm. Someone has been here. Within the last hour, he looks up at the circle of pale faces behind the lantern. Light. The murderer walks among us and laughs. Chapter 5. The Chapel of the Raven. Poirot does not rise at once. He stays on one knee inside the chalk raven, studying every detail as though the stones might speak. The lantern light turns the blood drops black. He counts them, 7 perfect drops, forming an arrow that points toward the far wall. He follows the arrow with his eyes and sees a section of stone that does not match the rest. One block. Slightly proud of its neighbors, he presses it. A low grinding sound fills the chamber. The stone swings inward, revealing a narrow passage lit by a single red bulb that should not work, yet glows steady and evil. Cold air breathes out, carrying the heavy scent of myrrh. Poirot straightens, dusts his knees, and smiles the small, dangerous smile that means the hunt is truly in after you, Miss Amos, he says softly. Or would you prefer? Poirot goes first into the lair of the raven. No one moves. Finally, Captain Harlow cocks his revolver and limps forward. Victor Kane follows, gripping his lantern like a weapon. Lady Eleanor comes next, then Dr. Hawthorne. The rest trail behind, whispering. Clara Kane is last, her face paper white, her notebook now tucked inside her coat. Passage is ancient, older than the house above. Walls are rough-hewn rock, dripping with water. There footsteps echo strangely, as though someone walks both ahead and behind. After 30 yards, the passage opens into a perfect octagonal room. The center stands a stone altar, black with age. 13 raven masks hang from iron hooks around the walls. Each mask is different. One has ruby eyes, one has a crack across the beak, one is stained dark, as though splashed with something long dried in. The altar lies an open book, bound in black leather. The pages are thick vellum covered in handwriting and strange symbols. Poirot lifts the book with reverence. Is the original ledger of the Raven Club. Begun in 1916, every member signed in blood. He turns the pages slowly. Names appear and disappear, some crossed out with a single black feather drawn beside the mat. The bottom of the last written page, fresh ink, still shins. New entry dated yesterday. The 13th member has returned it, reads tonight. The circle closes. Lady Eleanor stares at the book as though it might bite. As Edmund's handwriting, she whispers. He wrote the first entries. Someone is imitating him perfectly. Poirot closes the book gently. No, madame. Someone is finishing what? Edmund began. Looked at the masks. Count them. There are only 12 masks. On the hooks, one hook is empty. Captain Harlow swears under his breath the killer is wearing the 13th mask right now. He could be any of us. Victor Kane steps forward and touches the altar beneath his fingers. A small drawer slides open. With a click inside lies the twin of the dagger that killed Sir Reginald. Same ebony raven handle, same narrow blackened blade, but this one is clean. Next to it rests a single black feather and a tiny glass vial half full of dark liquid. Kane lifts the vial to the light. Poison, he says, quietly enough to kill every person in this House Clara makes a small, broken sound and backs against the wall. Dr. Hawthorne takes the vial from Keynes, sniffs it, and nods. Monk's hoodvery. Painful. Poirot takes the second dagger and weighs it in his palm. Now we know how the murderer plans. The rest of the performance. One dagger has tasted blood. One still waits. He turns to the group. Who among you knew this chapel existed? Only 4 hands rise slowly. Lady Eleanor, Hawthorne, Professor Thornand, Mr. Graves, who raises his hand last, and, without expression, Poirot looks at Graves for a long moment. You are not surprised, mon ami, have been here before recently. Graves says nothing, but the red bulb throws his shadow huge and winged across the wall. Poirot places the clean dagger back in the drawer and closes eyes. Walks slowly around the chamber, studying each mask. When he reaches the cracked one, he stops inside the mask. Something glints. He reaches in and draws out a thin gold chain. At the end hangs a small golden raven pendant. He holds it up so all can see. This belonged to Edmund Ravenscroft. Eleanor gave it to him the week before he died. Was never found on his body. Lady Eleanor reaches out trembling fingers. That pendant was buried with him. I saw the coffin closed. Myself. Poirot's voice is gentle but terrible. Then someone opened that coffin, madame. Someone brought your brother home in. Tonight he walks again. Sudden gust of cold wind sweeps through the chapel. Though there is no door open, the red bulb flickers once, twice, then steadies. Every raven mask seems to watch them with empty eyes. Somewhere far above in the house, a clock strikes 6 slow notes. Dawn has fully come, yet down here it might as well be midnight. Poirot slips the golden pendant into his pocket. We return upstairs. Now we have seen what the murderer wished us to see. But Poirot has seen a little more. He turns to lead them back the way they came. As the last person steps from the chapel, the stone door grinds shut behind them, sealing with a finality that makes Clara cry out. In the passage the lanterns burn, lower shadows leap and twist like living things. Halfway up the spiral stairs, Victor Kane stops suddenly. He bends and picks something from the step. Another black feather, this one wet with fresh blood. He looks back down into the darkness. They have just left. Something moved, he whispers. Swear something followed us. Poirot takes the feather and tucks it into his notebook. Without a word, he continues upward, his small feet sure on the slippery stone. They reach the iron door and step into the warm kitchen. The morning light feels almost obscene after the red darkness below. Marsden waits with fresh coffee and a face like death. He speaks for the first time without being asked. The telephone line. It's working again, sir. The police are coming, but the road will not be clear until tomorrow. Wall nods. Tomorrow will be too late. Tonight, the raven claims its second victim. Less. Hercule Poirot claims the raven first. He looks at each pale, exhausted face and smiles the calm, terrible smile of a man who finally sees the entire pattern breakfast. He says, then we play the next act, and this time the murderer will find the audience is not so helpless. Chapter 6. The Second. Death. Morning light floods the dining room, pale and cold. The long table has been cleared of last night's horror. Fresh white cloth covers the bloodstains, and Sir Reginald's chair has been removed. Yet, everyone sits exactly where they sat before, as though the dead man might walk in and complain about the draft. Poirot stands at the head of the table, looking as if he has slept 10 hours in a luxury hotel. He places 3 objects in front of him: the golden raven pendant, the bloody black feather from the cellar stairs, and the small leather notebook taken from Clara Kane while she bathed. Clara sees it and goes white as chalk. You had no right, she whispers. Poirot opens the notebook and turns it so all can see. Page after page of neat handwriting. Dates, names, times, payments, and on the final page, one line repeated like a prayer. He is not dead. He is waiting beneath. Victor Kane rises slowly, his face dark with fury. Give it back, he says, voice shaking. Poirot closes the book with a soft snap. Mademoiselle Kane has been writing to someone she believed was her lover for months. Someone who promised to punish the guilty. Someone who signs every letter with a pressed raven feather. Clara begins to cry silent. Shaking tears, Poirot continues to be calm and terrible. Last night, while we slept in the hall, Mademoiselle Kane left her bed for exactly 11 minutes, long enough to use the secret telephone. In the butler's pantry, Marsden heard nothing because he too was absent for 9 minutes. So we have lovers, secret letters, secret calls, and a murderer who knows every corner of this house. Now we wait for the second death, because the raven never kills, only once. He has barely finished speaking when Miss Penelope Gray stands up suddenly. Her eyes roll back. Her body sways, and she speaks in a deep, rough, masculine voice. The circle is broken. The oath is blood. One falls. Then she collapses. Mr. Graves catches her before she hits the floor. Real fear on his stone face for the first time. Dr. Hawthorne rushes to her side, checks her pulse, and announces she has only fainted. But while everyone crowds around the medium, no one notices Professor Lionel Thorne at the far end. He sits very still, eyes wide and fixed, a thin line of blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He topples sideways across the table, quite dead. Poirot is there in 3 strides. He lifts the old man's head, sniffs the coffee cup, and pronounces bitter almonds, cyanide. Fast and clean. On the white tablecloth beneath the professor's hand, someone has drawn another raven, this time in ordinary black ink. Its head turned to stare directly at Clara Kane. Victor Kane roars and lunges across the table toward his sister, screaming, "You little fool, you've killed us all." Captain Harlow grabs him and forces him back. Poirot's voice cuts like a whip. Enough. The murderer wanted to panic. He shall not have it. 2 dead. 10 remain. Tonight the raven comes for the 3rd, and tonight Hercule Poirot will be waiting. Chapter 7. The trap is set. The house settles into a frightened hush after Professor Thorne is carried away. Doors are locked, windows, bolted curtains drawn against the pale afternoon light. Everyone moves in pairs. Now no one trusts solitude. Poirot alone seems calm, almost cheerfully. Spends the afternoon in the library surrounded by old photographs and dusty ledgers, while the others watch him like mice watching a very polite cat. 4 o'clock, he gathers the 10 survivors in the drawing room. A large fire crackles, snow taps softly at the windows. He stands before the mantelpiece, small, neat, and deadly tonight. He says the murderer will try again. He must 3 deaths. Make a pattern. 3 is sacred to the Raven Club, but tonight, the pattern will be broken tonight. We give the raven exactly what it wants. We give it. Ripple of protest rises. Lady Eleanor steps forward. You cannot use yourself as bait, Monsieur Poirot. We are all guilty of something 20 years ago. The police come tomorrow. Poirot shakes his head. Tomorrow, the road opens and the raven flies away. Forever tonight, we end this lesson. Carefully at 11 o'clock, the electricity will fail again. Marsden has already arranged it. When darkness falls, I will be alone in the cellar chapel. Door will appear unlocked. The red bulb will glow. 13th mask will be waiting on the altar. The murderer will come for the 3rd and final offering, and when he comes, Captain Harlow will be hidden behind the stone door. Victor Kane and Dr. Hawthorne will guard the passage. Lady Eleanor and Mrs. Langley will watch from the secret spy hole above the altar. Every entrance will be covered. The raven will walk into a cage. Victor Kane laughs bitterly. If the killer realizes it is a trap, Poirot smiles. Then he will still come because pride is stronger than caution. He has waited 20 years to wear that final mask. He cannot resist the invitation. Clara Kane stands trembling. I will not be part of this. I loved him, whoever he is. I loved him. Poirot looks at her almost kindly. Then you will sit with me in the chapel, mademoiselle. You will call him by the name you whispered in the dark. You Will bring him to me that is your penance. Clara covers her face and nods. Night falls heavy, and black dinner is eaten in silence at 10:30. Poirot checks his little pocket watch. He adjusts his tie, smooths his mustache, and walks alone toward the kitchen stairs. The others follow at a distance, like a funeral procession down the stone steps past the iron door, left deliberately open into the red glow of the hidden chapel. Poirot steps into the circle of raven masks. He places the 13th mask on the altar beside a single black candle already lithe, sits on the cold stone floor in the center of the chalk. Raven Clara is led in blindfolded and placed beside him. The stone door grinds shut. The spies take their places. Hidden men cock their weapons and the dark silence falls, thick as velvety leaven. A clock strikes from the grandfather clock, far above each. Light in the house dies at once. Blackness swallows everything. Only the red bulb in the chapel glows on. Minutes pass like hours. Clara's breathing is loud in the stillness. Poirot sits motionless, a small dark shape in the blood-red light. Then it comes soft footsteps in the passage, the faint rustle of robes. The stone door opens without a sound. Its tall figure in the missing raven mask steps into the chapel. The mask tilts as though listening, moves forward, silent and certain. One gloved hand holds the second ebony dagger. Clara whimpers Edmund. She whispers Edmund is that youth. Masked figure freezes. Dagger glints red in the bulb light. Poirot speaks for the first time, his voice gentle, almost tender. Come closer, mon frere. 20 years is a long time too. Hide beneath the earth. Come and finish what you began. The raven mask turns toward Poirot. Low laugh, muffled and terrible, echoes inside the beak. The figure raises the dagger and steps into the chalk circle. At that exact moment, every lantern flares into life. Harlow, Kane, Hawthorne, and Graves burst from their hiding places. Weapons level misses. Langley screams from the spy alley. The raven mask spins wildly, looking for escape. There is none. Poirot rises slowly, brushing dust from his trousers. Remove the mask, he says quietly. The game is over. The figure stands very still. Then, with deliberate slowness, the gloved hands reach up and lift the raven mask away. The face beneath is not Edmund Ravenscroft, is not even a man the others expected. Chapter 8. The face beneath the mask. The raven mask falls to the stone floor with a hollow clatter. 10 faces stare in stunned silence. The person standing in the red light is Penelope Grath, the famous medium. Her eyes are clear now, no trance, no rolling. White only, cold triumph, and something that looks almost like relief. Dr. Hawthorne is the first to speak, his voice cracking. You all this time, you Miss Gray. Smiles, a small thin smile. Did you truly believe the spirits spoke through me, Felix? They never. Dee spoke for them. I have always spoken for them, Captain. Harlow's revolver wavers. You murdered 2 men. 3. She corrects softly. Edmund was the first 20 years ago, in this very chapel. He trusted me. He believed I loved him. I pushed him down the cellar stairs and watched his neck break. Then I screamed and screamed until the others came running. Perfect witness. The perfect innocent lady, Eleanor, takes one step forward, her face twisted with hate. Why? Because he was going to end the Raven Club. He had discovered what we truly were: thieves, grave robbers, traffickers in cursed relics. We stole from tombs in Egypt and sold to rich fools in London, and found the ledger. He was going to the police, so I killed him, and the 12 of us swore the oath to protect the secret forever. Victor Kane spits on the floor. My Bernard, the Professor Reginald discovered I was writing new letters. He was going to expose everything again. The professor recognized my handwriting in the fresh entries they had to digest, like, "The rest of you will die when the snow clears and the relics are safe." Roe raises one hand and the room falls silent. Again he speaks almost sadly. "You plant everything with beautiful precision, Mademoiselle. The lights, the locked house, the raven feathers. Dagger from the altar." Even the voice Clara heard on the telephone. "Your companion, Mr. Graves he made the calls, he cut the wires, he moved through the walls like a ghost because he was never a companion at all. He was your brother returned from Australia, where everyone believed he died of fever. Perfect resurrection. Graves gives a small mocking bout. Your service, Miss Gray laughs. Softly we waited 20 years. Hercule Poirot, we watched the guilty grow rich and fat on blood money tonight. The circle closed 3 deaths to balance the one I gave you all those years ago. Then the ledger would burn and the relics would vanish. Shape perfect vanishing act. Clara Kane falls to her knees, sobbing. You said you loved me. Used me. Miss Gray looks down at her. Without pity, you were useful. Ma petite, your letters gave me perfect alibis. Your tears convinced the others you were innocent. Every heroine needs a heartbroken girl. Rose steps forward until he stands only inches from the murderess. You made only one mistake, mademoiselle. You believed symbols matter more than truth. The raven feathers masks the theatrical darkness, all magnificent, but you forgot the little gray cells. They care nothing for theater. They see only facts, said the murderer. Had to be someone who could move freely in darkness, someone every person here trusted to touch them, someone who could drug herself to fake a trance, someone whose perfume lingered in the dining room after the lights came back, myrrh and something sweeter. Scent of a woman who anoints herself before every performance. He reaches into his pocket and draws out the golden raven pendant. This never belonged to Edmund, it belonged to you. He gave it to you the night he died. You kept it all these years, lay trophyoned. Last night you hid it in the cracked mask so we would find it, another pretty clue to lead us in circles. But trophies betray their owners. Miss Gray's smile fades. For the first time real fear flickers in her eyes. Poirot turns to Captain Harlotha. Police will be here by morning. Till then, these two will be locked in the wine cellar with chains. I have already selected the Raven Club ends tonight, not with blood, but with justice. He looks once more at Penelope Gray. You created a perfect murder, but you forgot one thing. Even the cleverest raven is only a bird, and Hercule Poirot's the man who cages birds. Red bulb flickers and dies. The sudden darkness, chains rattle. 2 prisoners are led away on. High above in the silent house, the storm finally breaks. Snow begins to fall against soft white, tanned clean. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. Dawn creeps pale and slow across the snow-buried lawns of Blackwood Manor. The police have not yet arrived. Roads are still half choked, but the sky is clear, and the telephone line sings again. The great hall. The survivors sit wrapped in blankets, drinking hot tea that Marsden serves with shaking hands. No one speaks. They are alive, and they do not quite believe it. Poirot stands by the window watching the first police car crawl up the newly cleared drive. He turns back to the room. His face is tired, but his eyes shine like polished emerald. Now he says softly, we finish the story not with screams and daggers, but with truth. Truth is cleaner than snow. He asks them to remain seated one by one. He walks among them and places a small object in each lap too. Lady Eleanor, he gives the golden raven pendant you kept silent for 20 years, Madame B. Because you feared scandal more than murder. Your brother's death bought your silence. Wear it now as penance to Dr. Hawthorne. He hands the poisoned coffee cup from Professor Thorne's place. You've signed a false death certificate for Edmund Ravenscroft. You knew the neck was broken before the fall. You chose money over medicine. Carry this cup until the police take Hito Victor Kane. He returns Clara's notebook. Cues smuggled relics for the Raven Club after the war. You brought the second ebony dagger back from Cairo last year. You thought the past was buried, was only sleeping. 2. Mrs. Langley, he gives a single black feather. You financed everything. Your black pearls were paid for with tomb gold. Keep the feather. It is lighter than your conscience. To Captain Harlow, he hands the revolver. You stood guard on the night Edmund died. You saw Penelope Gray leave the chapel. You accepted a bribe and looked away. Your limp is not from the war, it is from shame. One by one the objects are given No one protests, no one denies thee. Truth has waited 20 years, and it is patient finally. Poirot stops before Clara Canchi is pale and hollow-eyed. Places nothing in her hands. He only bends and kisses her forehead like a father. You were the only innocent here. Ma Petitu loved a ghost that never existed. Forgive yourself, the rest of us must live with what we did. Marsden stands in the doorway. Tears cutting clean tracks down his thin cheeks. Poirot turns to him. Last hand you, mon vieux, served this house for 40 years. You carried secrets in every tray of tea. You watched a boy die and said nothing, but yesterday you left the iron door unlatched. For me, that was your confession. It is enough. The front door bell rings. Heavy boots sound in the hall. Inspector Japp enters with 6 constables, Snow still clinging to their cosi. Looks around at the silent circle and whistles softly. By heaven, Poirot. Been busy. Poirot gives a small, tired bow. Simple matter of order and method, mon amand. A great deal of help from the little gray cells. Take them all, the guilty and the less guilty. And the less guilty justice does not distinguish as the prisoners are led away in handcuffs. Lady Eleanor pauses beside Poirot. Touches the golden pendant at her throat. Thank you, she whispers, for ending it cleanly. Poirot watches her go. He says nothing. There is nothing left to say outside. The snow has begun to melt. Water drips from the eaves. Like slow tears, single raven circles once above the manor, then wheels away. Toward the brightening east. Poirot watches it disappear. He straightens his hat, smooths his mustache, and walks down the steps to the waiting car. Before he climbs in, he looks back once at Blackwood Manor. The house stands quiet at last, its windows no longer blind, its shadows no longer hungry. Poirot smiles. A small, neat, satisfied smile. Another case concluded. Another raven cage. Tea gets into the car. The engine starts and Blackwood Manor is left behind in the melting snow, silent, empty, and finally at peace.
Chapter 10. The Raven's Last Flight. The train from Devon to London is almost empty. Hercule Poirot sits alone in a first-class compartment. A small fire glows in the stove. Outside the window, the last of the snow slides from hedgerows and fields. England is washing itself clean. He opens his little leather notebook for the final time. On the last blank page, he writes in neat, precise handwriting. Case closed. Blackwood Manor. January 1937. Murderer, Penelope Gray. Real name, Penelope Graves. Accomplice, Thomas Graves, her brother. Victims: 1. Edmund Ravenscroft, 1916. 2. Sir Reginald Ravenscroft, 1937. 3. Professor Lionel Thorne, 1937. Motive: silence about the Raven Club's trade in stolen Egyptian antiquities. He pauses. Then, beneath it, he adds one more line. True motive: pride. The proudest killers always sign their work with feathers. He closes the notebook and slips it away. A soft knock sounds at the compartment door. Inspector Japp slides it open and steps inside, rubbing cold hands. Mind if I join you, old friend? I've just come from reading the full confessions. Thought you might like to hear the parts you never told us. Poirot gestures to the opposite seat. Please, mon ami, complete the picture for me. I dislike loose threads. Japp sits and lights a cigarette. Penelope Gray talked for 6 hours straight. No remorse, only satisfaction. Turns out she and her brother Thomas were never spiritualists at all. They were the original organizers of the Raven Club back in 1914. Edmund Ravenscroft was the only member with a conscience. When he threatened to expose the smuggling ring, she killed him in the chapel and staged the accident. The oath, the blood, the masks, all her theater to keep the others terrified and obedient for 20 years. And the relics. Worth $250,000 even today. Hidden beneath the chapel floor in sealed lead boxes. "We found them this morning. Gold statues, jewelry, a complete Book of the Dead. Enough to send the whole lot of them to prison for life. Lady Eleanor has already signed over the entire estate to the British Museum to reduce her sentence." Poirot nods. "And Clara Kane?" "Free by tomorrow, no charges. The poor girl truly believed she was corresponding with Edmund's ghost. Every letter was dictated to her over the telephone by Thomas Graves in that deep theatrical voice. Penelope would post the raven feathers the next day. A perfect illusion." Jap exhales smoke and grins. "You knew it was Penelope the moment you smelled the myrrh, didn't you?" Poirot permits himself a tiny smile. "From the first evening. Only one person in that house wore myrrh strong enough to linger after the lights returned. Only one person could move among them untouched and trusted. Only one person could faint at the exact moment the professor was poisoned. The trance was drug-induced, a clever little pill under the tongue. I found the empty packet in her handbag." Jap shakes his head in admiration. "And the 13th mask? She actually walked straight into your trap wearing it. She could not resist. The final performance, the closing of the circle. That is the weakness of all great criminals, mon ami. They must bow to their audience. I simply gave her the stage she craved, and the audience was waiting with handcuffs." The train whistle sounds as they approach London. Jap stands and crushes out his cigarette. "One last thing. Penelope asked to see you before they moved her to Holloway. Said she wanted to thank you for understanding her art." Poirot looks out at the city lights beginning to flicker on in the dusk. "Tell her merci, but no. I do not accept bows from murderers, only from honest men, and there were few of those at Blackwood Manor." Jap laughs and claps him on the shoulder. "Then come and have dinner at the Savoy. My treat. You've earned it." Poirot rises, smooths his overcoat, and adjusts his hat. "With pleasure. But first I have a small errand." That evening, in a quiet London churchyard, Hercule Poirot stands before a simple headstone. Edmund Ravenscroft, 1894–1916. Beloved son and brother. He places a single white camellia on the grave. No raven feathers, no blood, only purity. He speaks softly to the still air. "Sleep well, mon garçon. The raven has flown. Your sister is free. Your house is clean. And justice is finally blind to everything except truth." He turns and walks away between the darkening graves. His small, neat figure casting one long shadow that looks almost like wings. But they are not raven wings. They are the wings of order, of method, of the little gray cells that never sleep. Behind him, the camellia glows white against the stone. The last light of day catches it for a moment. Then night falls, gentle and complete. The Raven Club is ended. The Manor is silent. And Hercule Poirot, the greatest detective in the world, goes home to a hot tisane, perfect mustaches, and the satisfaction of a case perfectly, beautifully, finally closed.